Ready to transform how you think about love and mental health? This May, join host Nyomi Banks and Dr. Will Washington and expert guests on Love and Mental Health, a powerful 4-part series exploring relationships through the lens of mental wellness. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap. Do you have a story to share? Your experience matters. Email us at asknyomi@gmail.com and be part of the conversation that's changing lives.
And that's the disappointing when you fuck a guy for over an hour and he just go.
Did anybody recognize you from film in the industry? They did? Okay. Well, I just came in. You gotta do what you gotta do.
You are such an advocate. One thing is what I love is I love seeing a lot of the beautiful women that's in the industry as sex advocates.
And I would set up crystals on their body based off of their chakra. And the crystals, what they do is if they sit long enough, they begin to like permeate through the body. They begin to expand through the body and they create a grid.
I shot with John Q too. You know, John Q, you know, I was the first big girl, but he did inside, you know, inside. Yeah. But
I would, and I have given my last dime to people. I've given when I should have just watched. And it's not always about giving financially. It's giving your space and your time and your energy.
So that's kind of like a 50-50 answer, what I got. That wasn't really a yes or no answer.
No, I think I actually would, and this is of course the therapist in me, I would be asking them, like, tell me how this is celibacy for you.
So what's first here, Amy?
I shoot them just like I would be shooting a regular human. So you don't put the emphasis on that, so it makes it more consistent with the title of being transgender.
I have a really good friend. She lives here in Atlanta. I met her on a porn set. She wrote a book called From Porn to the Pulpit. Now, I won't say she was like this super... Yeah, she's my best friend. She's my best friend. Her name is Danielle Williams McCord. She wrote an amazing book called From Porn to the Pulpit. She's been preaching for 10 years now, but I met her on a porn set.
In any business that you find yourself in. Because definitely for me, like, you know, creating a product to push to the consumer, and for me, everything was consumer driven. If they didn't want it, I'm not gonna make it because I knew it.
Felt like if we kept our head a little below the sagebrush, that we would just be able to keep on going without any interference or anything like that. But that's
like, dude, I'm sitting in like the dressing room, like just with all the 20-year-olds and 22-year-olds, 25-year-olds. I'm like, how old are you? Oh, I'm 25. I'm like, how old are you? I'm 23. And I'm like, dude, I'm 30.
Before I leave the house, I feel like last look. You know, this is how I feel, this is what I'm thinking, you know. Now, when I get out and interact with other people, it's going to be what it is.
Right, okay.
Welcome to a podcast like no other. Get ready for insightful conversations, diverse perspectives, and a touch of inspiration. This is Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap podcast. Join your host, the dynamic Nyomi Banks, as she delves into the heart of various topics with a refreshing blend of curiosity and wisdom. Each week, tune in as Nyomi is joined by special guests who bring their unique stories and expertise to the table. It's a journey of discovery, learning, and growth. And let's not forget about the one and only dog pound Mike, adding his flavor and flair to the mix. Together, they make a dynamic duo you won't want to miss. From thought-provoking discussions to moments of laughter and joy, Ask Naomi. Bridging the Gap podcast offers a space where great topics meet amazing guests. So, mark your calendars, set your reminders, and prepare to be entertained and enlightened. Join Naomi Banks and Dog Pound Mike Weekly for an unforgettable podcast experience. Get ready to bridge the gap, expand your horizons, and immerse yourself in the world of Ask Naomi. Subscribe now and stay tuned for a podcast journey like no other.
All right. Hey, my beautiful people. Well, welcome to Ask Naomi Bridging the Gap podcast. This is where we talk about love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more while bridging the gap between them all and teaching the world on sex, language, attitude, and spiritual uplifting. But this month we're doing something special, right? We are doing something special. But before I tell y'all that, y'all know who's talking, right? I am your host, Naomi Banks. And today we are continuing our conversation for our week 3 of our love and mental health series for our mental health awareness month. This is where we take each week this May that we've been shining a light on the connections between love, relationship, and mental wellness. And tonight we are diving into one of the most important topics yet. And that's how to navigate relationships while prioritizing mental health for yourself and your partners. So listeners, I want to remind you all why this all started. And if anybody new that's tuning in, I want to tell you about this letter that I was inspired by, that I received. That I tried to appease my exes and lost myself in the process. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, and I'm not sure if I should tell any new found lovers or just accept the fact that I'm going to be single forever. See, now that one sentence is what sparked this entire series. And tonight, this conversation is for him and for anyone else who's ever wondered if they are lovable because of their pain and not in spite of. All right. So I want to share something with you. Just the other day, it came up on my IG thread. And it was so I'm just going to read to you. And it's so heartbreaking, but this reminds me of why this conversation matters so deeply. Well, in Nebraska, there's a woman named Bailey Koch, Koch, and she has been sharing her journey publicly. Her husband, Jeremy, has battled severe mental illness. And she has started a GoFundMe page to help pay for this TMS therapy. It's therapy, what's it called? Transcranial magnetic stimulation. After he attempted to unalive himself a few times. And I'm trying to find the right words to say without us getting flagged. Well, apparently, Bailey was doing everything right? And she loved him openly. She used her voice to advocate for mental health care. But just hours before their son's high school graduation, just the other day, Jeremy took his life, the life of his wife, and their 2 sons, and himself. You know, Bailey had been sharing her story through Facebook page called Anchoring Hope for Mental Health. And she was fighting for him. And still this happened. So this is why we're here. This is why you're here. Mental illness is just a private struggle. It can have public generational consequences, but if it goes untreated or unsupported, these are the things that happen. So what I want to do right now is I want to remind you all that we have actually created a fundraiser for that we have paired up with American Health Awareness, Mental Health America, to do that. And that's where 100% of all proceeds go to this, as well as our Mind and Heart merch right here. And I want to thank everybody thus far that has grabbed the merch. as well as has donated. But I want to go a little further. I wanted to show how really, truly strong that our BTG crew is and how much we care about this. You understand what I'm saying? Because it touches so many different people, so many different families, so many different individuals. And it's I want to be more than us just talking about it. Let's do something about it. All right. So before we bring our special panel to the stage, we're going to take a quick break. All right. It's your girl, the Goddess Nyomi Banks, here on Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast, and we'll be right back.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
Ready to transform how you think about love and mental health? This May, join host Nyomi Banks and Dr. Will Washington and expert guests on Love and Mental Health, a powerful 4-part series exploring relationships through the lens of mental wellness. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap. Do you have a story to share? Your experience matters. Email us at asknyomi@gmail.com and be part of the conversation that's changing lives.
All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome back. Well, before we introduce our panel, I can't forget to shout out Dog Pound Mike. Mike, what's going on?
What's happening? What's happening?
All right, and also to all the new, old, and loyal BTG crew, I want to say thank you to all of those that have donated thus far, that came in here and just been showing love all day, every day here. But also, I want y'all to remember that every penny counts. You know, when you heard the story earlier before the break, that we need more. We need more. So I want you to truly show them how strong the community that BTG can be. So Dog Pound Mike, he has put the link up once again. You can also go to axnyomi.com, and I'm going to spell Nyomi for you. If you don't know, that's Nyomi. And it's right there. And again, 100% of all proceeds from this month goes directly to them. All right, so let's introduce our incredible guest. Yes, well, first, our guest is Alex Olosunde, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, but she is a licensed marriage and family therapist, relationship coach, and a fierce advocate of emotional wellness and love. She's worked with hundreds of couples and individuals, helping them to navigate communication breakdowns, trauma bonding, and real work of healing inside relationship. So, Alex, thank you for being here. Oh, we can't hear you, love. We still can't hear you, love.
You can hear me now, can't you?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now. Well, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much.
I would just say I already said something like
I know, right? It's all right, though. I appreciate you having me.
No, that's right. And of course, our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington, you know all of his things. He's a licensed clinical counselor, a psychedelic assisted therapist. He's also a health psychology PhD, an expert in trauma, emotional fatigue, and powerful voice in the world of secondary healing. Hey, Dr. Will.
It's so good to be here, and it's so good to see you, Alex. I'm so happy you can be here.
Yes, thanks. So y'all ready for this conversation?
Sure. I'm definitely excited.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, I just want to stop right here and go first to what I just read about what I saw on social media just the other day. This happened just 2 days ago with the family. It was actually a suicide, unalived, and he unalived the rest of his family less than hours before his son's graduation. I know, Dr. Will, you and I, as well as Akila last week, we had a conversation on how kind of balancing that with family and having family in that process. when I went down and I read not all of them, most of her social media posts, and she was truly advocating for her husband for years, and they were high school sweethearts. For that, and this is for both of you. And my question is this: is that how can we? And I want to make sure that I say this right because I was talking to Dog Pound Mike. How when you are so in love with someone and you want so hard to save them, but they don't want to save themselves, not because they do it purposely, but because there's something that's within them that it won't allow them to live any longer. How do you get through that? How do you, I guess, how do you balance that away? What's important? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yes. And I can say that every relationship does have a capacity. Every relationship does have a limit. Every relationship does have its beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when we go beyond our capacity, we end up doing the harm when we intended to do well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really hard question to ask because I've seen it before happen. And I know, Alex, I know you've seen it a lot as well.
Yes. Yeah. I would say that one of the things that come to mind is just how we understand our relationships and how much like stock we're really willing to put into them, right? Like Dr. Will said about capacity. I think capacity is one part of it, but I think it just has to do with individual relationship skill ability. And that's the thing that I find in our society that is lacking quite a bit. And when I say that, I mean like individual ability to be in a relationship, the skills required. And a lot of people just don't understand what it really takes. And when it comes down to it, you're not really willing. Some people just aren't willing to do what it takes anymore for various reasons. Sometimes you find that it's heartbreak. That you've been unfaithful and I no longer am interested in trying. Or you've been treating me this way for so long, I don't want to do it, or I don't feel anything for you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But there are various things that can result in that eventual end. But I do find that that's something that is quite prevalent. And so trying to find the balance is understanding where you ends and they begin, like always being able to keep that in mind and not losing yourself in a person.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you end up with more tragic situations like that where you're unable to kind of manage your emotions and unable to allow other people to be away from that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's because when I was reading that, I read it the other day when I was reading, I said, I'm going to bring this into the show tonight. And I felt the reason why, because I know there's probably a lot of other voices out there that's probably in the same situation to where for years they're going back and forth and taking them, back and forth. He's attempted 4 times. And it was even in her hashtags on her Instagram, she was praising that he was alive on a day. Like he said, hashtag dad is alive today. We're happy that dad is alive today. And when you look at some of the pictures that he had, it looked like he really wanted to be in with the family, just so beautiful. But then it was like he was fighting something inside. It's just the love that she had for this man that you can see through every post, from the video and from the words that she shared, with that. And it's hard to, I believe that it's hard to know the difference on when that capacity is there, because we have, I guess you and I talk about it sometimes, Dr. Will, we have that where we want to be a superhero or save others. You understand what I'm saying? And we think it's so easy by a simple magic word or something, and it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that magic word, what it is. When he was diagnosed, and I know I didn't want to go through all this, but I'm going to, because it just happened, just recently, just 2 days ago. So it's fresh in my mind with it. So when that happened, they had just got him out of the hospital. just in time for his son's graduation. And I was telling Dog Pound Mike, I said, wow. I said, the way that I'm thinking about this is that, and I promise you, I hope we don't get flagged for this, but he felt like he needed to unalive them so he can leave, because he felt like they kept saving him, or that he's not worthy to be saved. So it's like, who's ever listening right now and possibly going through that, what would the words, or what kind of help would you have for them to start on that journey to wanting to stay alive? Does that make sense? Am I saying the right words?
Yes. I get this a lot. I feel like the thing that I keep coming back to is every day that you wake up is a decent day. It's a decent day. And every day that you wake up is an opportunity to have a good day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think understanding that, maybe it did not happen today. Maybe the person that you wanted to make up with didn't receive it well, but tomorrow is another day and another chance at finding success, finding happiness, finding purpose, finding fun, finding love, whatever it is that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It could be tomorrow. And wouldn't you just want to know?
Yeah.
Right? And so that's kind of just something that I find myself saying to a lot of people who are struggling with that and trying to make it through a situation that, don't get too caught up fighting and trying to maintain happiness. It's a feeling. They come and they go. It is not meant to be a status in which you stay. Otherwise, we would not have other emotions, right? And so understanding that process, you're looking for contentment, not happiness. And that looks a little different.
I love that you say that, because, happiness it always seems to be the ultimate goal of everyone. You understand what I'm saying? And we think it's like a permanent thing, like that's the destination on what it is, on what that is. Dr. Will, do you want to share something with?
Yeah, so this is gonna be I'm a little different. My philosophy is a little different.
Go ahead.
So I'm a little more aggressive existentialism. So for me, the unaliving is not really the end of anything. It's actually the beginning of living. And a lot of times you not wanting to live is actually the beginning of how you're supposed to live healing as a lifestyle. And so for me, I believe that death is just as important as living. And so my first statement is, what type of unburdening do you want to create through your death? What do you want? What do you want to create? What do you think it's going to create? Because death doesn't mean going away. It means you're creating another lifestyle for other people. So for me, I would actually map out their entire life afterwards. We would go into it. So what's going to happen to her? What's going to happen to your sons? What's going to happen to them? What are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to be doing? You've created all that. You think that because of this loss for yourself, you're going to have it's going to create this much power for everybody else. How rational is that? What does that look like for you? And what is the purpose of your death? Right? Why? What is the purpose? What is the meaning of it? Because a lot of times that mindset is a part of the savior complex as well. Right? And then how's the savior, when the savior falls, they're usually self-abusing by being the rescuer.
Yeah.
So after trying to rescue everything else in your life, you end up becoming sacrificial. So it's one of those things where for me, it's actually very rational to want that. So my thing is what's the meaning of it? And a lot of times they get tired of trying to plan that all out because they didn't really think that far ahead. They were just in the passion of not wanting to live rather than the reality of it. So
I like that.
Sorry, Allie.
No, I really wanted to just connect something, if it's okay. And I think it's important to understand like the difference in style and the difference in approach, right? So because of his leaning into existentialism, I am a person who is more family systems and relational oriented. So for me, it's like, okay, let's look at, what's going on in your relationship. Let's look at what skills you do and don't have. Let's look at why you're having trouble getting there. Maybe there is a diagnosis that's keeping you from being able to manage your emotions effectively. Maybe we should get a psychiatrist involved to help us out with that, right? There are a lot of things that, I look at, but it's a little bit more relational. And so depending on the patients, I will say that some patients are willing to look a little deeper and really go into that trauma space, because it all leads back to trauma, usually, unfortunately, really, in some capacity of childhood or recent. It's the basis for that type of ineffective attachment style.
Okay, well, I truly appreciate both of you on this insight, because I know this just came up like this one. So let's get back. No, just kidding. But no, seriously, thank you all for that, because it was bugging me. It was on my mind. And, usually I go down a little rabbit hole. So I was trying not to go down the rabbit hole, but also make aware of this, that's just happened. Because like you said, we are in Mental Health Awareness Month, and something like this is happening. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about love and mental health. And so why not even bring this up forward? All right. So now I got a question for our listeners right now. All right. Have you ever been in a relationship that felt amazing on surface, but emotionally exhausting underneath? Well, that is what we're going to be talking about tonight. The ways of mental health, how it affects our love lives, and how love in turn can either support or sabotage our mental wellness. So, Alex, I got a question for you. Why is it so important to talk about mental health inside of relationships? And what are the most common challenges that couples face, especially when one or both of the partners are struggling emotionally?
I think important, because everything that you feel is going to be reflected onto your partner. The baggage that you carry from the trauma or from the previous diagnosis or whatever mental health concerns that you have, they don't go away. You just carry them into your relationship. And so, it's important to be open and honest, and also be non-judgmental. And I think that's something that we struggle quite a bit with, especially in our Black and Brown communities.
Right. Thank you for that. Let's talk about how self-love and internal regulation create a safer connection.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So for me, I in my thought processing, you can be addicted to love. And sometimes love has the power to romanticize hardship in a relationship, where you think it's resilience. Our relationship's resilient. No, it's codependent. That's not resilience. We fight back and forth, we break up to make up. That sounds like you're trying to role play your trauma, and trying to relive your trauma and trying to give yourself the victory, right? And a lot of times with self-love, why we need it is because it teaches us to be strong enough to be vulnerable with ourselves, and we don't really take the time out to recognize, I love what I'm feeling, I love what I'm doing, but at what cost is it doing to my partner? Right. And sometimes we don't take them into account, because we love the way that we feel, but we don't realize that just because you feel good doesn't make the relationship great. And that balance is so important, because, even when I have clients that have infidelity, we realize that cheating is a symptom of a bigger problem, right? There's a bigger problem behind that, but we never get through that because the pain, the hurt kind of removes us, and we forget that self-love helps ground us. And so to teach self-love in a matter of a dysfunctional relationship is very hard, because we have to get through the ego of what may or may not be happening.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. So, Alex, would you like to add on to that?
What I'd like to add on to that. I know, right? Question again? No. So I would say that when it comes to love is a double-edged sword, like everything else. I'm a big fan of the middle way, the kind of yin yang, the understanding of light and dark, and the fact that you need both to kind of exist, right? And appreciating them. And so love is one of those things that is very helpful because it can hold you in dark times. It can keep you. It can, give you strength. It can give you power. It can save lives, right? It can do a lot of different things. But some of those things are harmful. And some of those things are, you love somebody so much that you'll put them before yourself, or you will allow them to control you or make you do things that you maybe don't want to do and don't think they're healthy for yourself or for your children or anyone else, right? And so I think it's important because when you talk about codependency, we start getting into a lot of symptoms around, usually past trauma of either abandonment or some type of insecure attachment. And so what I find in practice is that a lot of people don't realize that they have symptoms that mimic certain diagnoses that I don't want to get too deep into because I'm not a big fan of diagnosing people as a practice. But there are certain things that you should be aware of in terms of dysfunctional attachments and like hostile relationships. And occasionally we have to just be honest with ourselves. And I think that's where our styles kind of switch because I get a little bit more in your face. And then Dr. Will goes, let's love yourself, right? And so, but I tend to be a little bit more, let's be honest with ourselves, right? There's a part of you that enjoys this dysfunction. And we have to find out what that's doing for you, right? And like also, how are you continuing the cycle? Because from where I sit, even in situations like infidelity, which is often hard to get to a patient with, but it's a process. But it's an understanding that even if I cheated, that it doesn't excuse me from cheating. Let me be very clear. But like Will said, there is a situation there where something else is going on. Right? There's something that is missing, and you have to be willing to take accountability for that, right? For the conditions of your relationship. That is a two-person problem. And so being willing to kind of look at yourself and say, okay, I realize that because my dad wasn't around, I tend to give you 20 chances because I don't want to be by myself. And I really enjoy that male love. I understand that I'm aggressive because I feel like you're getting close to me and you're making me feel uncomfortable and vulnerable. And now I want to run. Sometimes you have to understand that if you are wrought in chaos and your family of origin was always into some goodness knows what, there's a point where you will bring chaos into your space because you're not used to living without it. And so you will inadvertently, and not that you're trying to do this, but you will bring it to your space, to your relationships. And so being able to kind of really be real with ourselves and say, okay, where is my dysfunction? Because when you look around and you have dysfunctional relationships and with your siblings and with your parents and with your coworkers and with your friends and with the taxi driver, at some point we have to look at ourselves and say, okay, am I out here? is it me? Like, somebody, do I need to hug? Like, what's going on? Right? Something's happening here. And I need to be able to acknowledge that just as much as being able to make people kind of aware of how to treat me. And that's a whole different issue. Like, you have to teach people how to treat you.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Thank you for that. So let's go a little deeper. Alex. The work that you do with couples therapy has helped so many people find themselves again while learning how to love more consciously. So what makes emotional?
Froze.
Oh, no.
I liked where this question was going, though.
I know. I was like, oh, getting revved up.
Right. But I also wanted to say, your diagnosis is not the reason for love.
Of course not.
How to fix love.
Of course
we
not.
gotta stop doing that. Yeah.
Of course not. course not.
We got to stop doing. Oh, I can love you this way because of my diagnosis. No,
that's not how it works either.
Not how
Accountability.
It works. ADHD is not the reason why you love this way. Just stop that.
No, you're accountable for your own actions and whether or not you choose to seek help. And that's understanding that if my ADHD makes me act a certain way, I'm still responsible for that. I'm also responsible for seeking help or seeking treatment and making that better for myself and my family. And if you decide not to do that, that's on you.
Yeah.
You know what, y'all? I know that was so amazing. But it was
We didn't
something happened over here technically.
Yeah, we didn't hear your question. We were just talking.
Yeah, we were good. We filled in. We made sure.
We
swept the floor a little bit. We got you.
Y'all go.
I was like, wow, this sounds pretty good here. All right, so let's go to the next question. Please help work with us right now. What should a partner do in their significant other if they refuses to help or won't acknowledge their mental health struggles?
You go first, Alex. Yeah, you be the mean one.
I will never tell anybody what to do because that's against what I'm not the person who has to lay my head down at night thinking about it. But what I will say is that you have to decide what you're willing to, how you want to live. And so there's a point where, if you're willing to accept the fact that this person's depression is debilitating them and not allowing them to function, and you're willing to make your life work around that and sacrifice yourself to do all that, I won't stop you. I do think that there's something else out there that would probably be better for you and better for them. And I think sometimes we have to look at ourselves and say, how much am I holding on to this? Is it for me or is it for you? Right? And be honest with yourself about the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just not enough.
Right. I want to say this too. This kind of goes piggyback on what you said just a few minutes ago, not too long ago, about even when you are cheating and infidelity, you want to know where that comes from. So even you holding on to something like this, that even if the other person is not, it won't take accountability or even want to go find out what's going on with them, but you want to stay there and go through the process with them. So that's like a more of a self for yourself, that, okay, what's it that you need to do, that you feel like you need to stay into this, and, kind of, jump off the bridge along with that person. Yeah.
I think that's something that we see quite a bit in terms of the ability to build the relationships. When I'm thinking about relationship skill building, and when I do couples therapy, I always try to make sure people understand that your relationship is not my client. That's not how this works. I am not trying to make you guys work. It sounds awful, but I'm not that interested. What I am trying to do is be able to give you guys the skills so that if this doesn't work, you're able to go on to the next relationship, learning the skills that you need to learn to be the partner that you want to be. And if that during that process of trying to become that partner, you guys decide that you're willing to continue to motivate, you're motivated to work, or, there's quite a few things that I do to try to assess where that space is. But once we find that out, you've got to be willing to put the work in and understand that that's a big, it's not easy. Being in a relationship is hard every week. When you're married, when you're single, when you're dating, it's all difficult because you're navigating people. And so you got to be willing to kind of put the work in and understand that it's a payoff. Like the payoff is great.
Wow. That was such an interesting intake. I promise you it was. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. So let me ask you this. How can we reduce the shame that's around therapy when it comes to people going in, especially in communities of color?
Yeah, that's a great question. Will, you want to take that first?
Of course not. Go ahead, please.
Thanks a lot. I believe that that's actually a big passion of mine. I'm actually working on something to try to navigate that space myself, which I won't get into. But I know, right? But what I will say is that in our communities, we have to understand that this isn't the same. 2025 is different. In case you haven't noticed, look around. It's different, right? And everyone lived through COVID. COVID impacted the entire world. The level of anxiety that the average person has is just higher.
Yeah.
The social anxiety is extremely high. Right. And so understanding how much that's impacting our relationships, our ability to navigate spaces, we can't shortchange that and think that we're going to just be able to overcome in the ways that we have, and be honest with ourselves again about the fact that some of the ways that we have overcome have been dysfunctional. Right. Yes, our parents have stayed together, our grandparents stayed together, but at what cost? They slept in separate bedrooms in some cases, which isn't a bad thing, depending on your relationship, let me be clear. But they didn't show affection, which isn't a bad thing, but depending on your relationship style. But you never saw them in a happy space in their relationship.
Right.
And so we just thought that that was dutiful, right? In 2025, people just want more. Our standards are higher, and I think we have to understand how that has happened, especially for the Black male, especially. The expectations around masculinity for the Black male over time is something that's constantly in flux. And right now we're trying to navigate the difference in trying to be the more emotionally present guy.
Yeah.
And our population doesn't really think emotions are a good thing because our grandfathers didn't talk that way and my dad didn't do that, right? And so understanding though that that's the next step. But for that, we were just wanting them to be present in the home, right? Before that, because of various social circumstances, we had a lot of parents, one household parents, right? And so you end up with males in jail and everyone else trying to figure out how to make it work. But the males, so we just wanted them to be there, to be able to provide. That was the standard. Before that, you go back another generation, you had a lot of men who were rolling stones, as they say, right? Who had different families in different places and other things, right? So it was more of just getting them to be at the place of residence at 24/7, right? And so when you look at the evolution of how our expectations of what we want our men to do, we've been a little behind because we've been wanting them just to like be in our house and provide for us. And now our Black men are looking at themselves and saying, I do that, but I'm going to go out and hang out with my friends, or I don't want to be emotionally available for you. And that's the next step. And so it's a beautiful evolution, but it is a little bit frustrating to kind of navigate. And, I wouldn't say that Black women are much better off, just in the fact that we have a little bit more of the emotional side and not as much of the being able to be okay with being a strong Black woman, but understanding when occasionally it's okay to kneel, and it not be a disrespectful space, right? It be, I'm going to let my husband have this win today. I can take it. But instead, I'm going to let you have it because you need it. And that is what it means to be a strong Black woman who supports a man who she wants to stand next to her or stand in front of her or whatever the case may be. I prefer mine to stand next to me. Everybody has their preference, right? But I think it's just understanding that's so important.
Yeah.
Sorry, tangent there, but
no. That's some good shit right there. Sorry. It was, and I see some comments that's coming in here this too. All right, so let me ask you this, and of course anonymously, can you share a story where therapy completely shifted direction of a relationship of one of your clients? Just
Yes. I had a client and his a pair. It's notable that they were in a similar work field. What I will say is that they were struggling with some history of a single domestic violent incident and trying to move past that. And the female was not, she was very excited about therapy, very willing. And the male came off a little bit high and mighty in his approach, and really was kind of challenging me to see how much I knew about my craft. And so we danced a while. It was 3 months in before he finally, we kind of had a breakthrough, and it kind of clicked for him what I was asking him to do in terms of shifting his focus and understanding and perspective of their relationship. Unfortunately, his wife was suffering from burnout, and I had encouraged her to go on a trip. After doing so, she told her friends about the incident that, by the way, had happened 3 or 4 years prior. And they hyped her up and came back, and she wanted to get a divorce. And so it was an interesting session because we were really excited to tell her that we were about to start talking about them sleeping back in the same bed. And then she was like, actually, I want a divorce. And so that was a different day, right? I tried to work with them through the situation, but it became apparent that the wife was on, she's just in a full-blown trauma response constantly, and she's being fed by people around her. And so she's not thinking rationally and just pulling the plug on her family's whole life. And she was unreasonable and angry and yelling at me in sessions. And so it became apparent that I had to fire the client, which was interesting. And I had to tell her that she wasn't in a place for couples therapy, that this isn't what you need. This isn't what you're interested in, and that's okay. You should get somebody to talk to, but it should not be based on a relationship because you have no interest in this, right? But the best part of this story is that I continued to work with the male because we had a breakthrough. And he wanted to continue. And so as they went through a divorce, he continued to work and he continued to work. And he got to a space where he was ready. It's weird. He was about 3 or 4 months after she had left. And I told him, it's one of those, I have nothing else to teach you. Like, you are now senpai. Like, you've made it, right? And so I told him, I said, your energy is great. You have the skills. You're ready for a relationship, and something's going to happen soon because your energy is saying it.
Right.
And then he contacted me about 4 months later to tell me that he started dating someone, and that they met about a month after we had that conversation. And actually, they're getting married this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I think it's important. I think that story is one of my favorite because it shows what I was talking about earlier in terms of my client is not the relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This wasn't meant to be. This was done. Yeah. But she didn't want the skills, and that's okay. But he did, and he got them, and now he's in a relationship that he's extremely happy in and doing a lot better at co-parenting with his ex-wife, even though she's a little bit difficult. But they sent me a notification that they were getting married. So exciting.
Wow. Yeah, that's first of all, that's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that with us. You know, as you were talking and you were saying, I was like, wow, he was so apprehensive coming into the whole thing, and she was just so gung-ho. And my mind is like, was she really coming in for the help, or was she coming in to prove herself wrong of what happened? Does that make sense? So somebody can validate her for what transpired in that one incident. That could have been a totally different accident or whatever, but it's, kind of validate her for what, she was doing. Because when I'm thinking this, I'm thinking of it personally, more of a self-love. You coming in and you're looking for something of a validation of something with that. So it could have been so much deeper than that one incident for her. With him, it's like, I really don't need it. But then going forward, this is why you do need it, because of the reaction that happened. You could have reacted a different way, but then you're open to learn how I can communicate with someone that is really willing to understand what I'm going through. And who she probably talking to is who she been talking to all along that caused it in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting to always keep in perspective when we're talking to our friends, right? Talking to coworkers, where they're coming from. I'm very honest in my sessions about where I'm coming from, the history that I have, even with my own relationship, so that you understand where my perspective is just that. It's an option for you. And if it's a perspective that you can get behind, then great, right? But I won't pretend that everything's just going to work out here. And I don't know, there's going to be rose-colored glasses through this whole thing called therapy. It's just a little bit different than that. But it can be so exciting when you're really open to the journey. And it can be so helpful. And he's a different person in some ways, but really it's the person that he wanted to be all along. And that's what's great about it.
Yeah. I love that. Again, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Will, do you have any that you want to share?
Yeah, just briefly, actually. I just want to acknowledge the fact that Alex is such a great therapist because she's okay with challenging and okay with people not being okay with her. This new generation of clients do not like to be challenged. They don't like to see themselves, and then they don't like to feel uncomfortable with their clinician. I hear so many stories of, I didn't like that my past therapist because they said something that just really turned me off. I didn't like the way it felt. I'm like, well, did you talk about it with them and try to help them understand? Did you go through that? So that means you didn't resolve anything. You just avoided, and you found a new therapist thinking that now I'm going to enable that, because I probably might have agreed with them too. And so I'm seeing in this new state of therapy that people are going in to be seen as right and correct. And that is not what I'm here to do. And that is not what I'm here for. And I just appreciate this story because it's not the Disney fairy tale story of they weren't going to make it, but now they're together and they're happily ever after. Like, no, they found each other. They found out what makes it for them, and they make it functional for themselves. And they're able to see themselves. That is what healthiness is. So I just acknowledge that. And I think a lot of therapists today don't get that type of scenery.
I think I'm a little bit direct in some of the ways that I say things with patients, but I work hard to make sure that they understand that it's coming from a good place. Like I'm very open about cheering for you. I'm very open about, wanting you to be better. But I will also go for the ride a little bit. I had a patient that I had to give a diagnosis to that was a pretty decent diagnosis, a borderline personality disorder, right? And for a Black woman, that's real tough. And so I had to I wanted to just wait until I could give the evidence, right? Like I've seen you in a couple of different situations, manage these situations, and here's what I see, right? But that was probably about 7 months in, because I wanted to make sure that she was ready to hear it, because she was not in a space where she was ready to hear it. She was coming here to be told these people around me are terrible and everyone around me is terrible and all these people and this and that. And I don't talk to them. And I just lost this guy and this friend and this. And I'm like, what? Right. Everyone keeps Xing off your board here. And so once we got enough of those opportunities, I was able to tell her, like, this is a pattern that extends with friendships, with family, with this. And then you're like, oh, I see it. Right. And so that's how I'm able to get it. But I present that very early in therapy. I'm a person who is not an expert on you. That's unrealistic. You live your life, you know you best. My job is to be the expert in the subject matter, which is understanding habits and patterns and understanding people and having this wealth of knowledge from both articles and experiences like today's podcast and everything else, right? And so that's what I bring, right? And so together, though, we have to figure this out. And so for me, it's very important that my patients are active in this role, especially if we're talking about diagnosing something like that, where I want you to be on board. I had to do it with a teenager recently as well, same diagnosis. And I had to wait until she was in a space where she was ready to hear it. And we talked about it, and then she cried about it because she felt good that there was a name. Like, there's at least somebody else out there who feels this
I
way.
wish I had that. I'm sorry, Alex, but I did the first month. I did the first day. I met somebody and I was like, I listened to their whole entire story. I listened to everything, and I was like, I'm gonna explain this as a house fire. The smoke is anxiety. The fire is a personality disorder, your BPD, and the thing that the house was burning is CPTSD. And then literally next week they came in and they went in on me. They were like, "You're wrong. You're a sexist. You don't know. You've only met me for 55 minutes. You don't think." And then I talked to all my other friends that are therapists, and they said that you're a quack, And I'm just sitting here like, I specialize in personality disorders, by the way, just mind you. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, I said it too soon, but I don't miss. And let me tell you why. And then I said, but remember, I'm here to treat the symptoms, not the diagnosis. I could have gave you zebranosis, whatever it is. I could make up a diagnosis. You're still you. So do you want to help with you want to help yourself, or do you want to help the diagnosis? Because if you want to help the diagnosis, then I know a great therapist for that. But I'm trying to help you. So let me know what you want to do.
I think that's great.
I'll be better about that next time, though.
Yeah, I think don't wait. So I didn't want to wait that long, but every time I was going to do it, it was a crash out session. So you got to roll with what you got.
Yeah. I did in the first session where I have the power still, and then I can.
Yeah. See, that's also a thing that I'm not going to do is fight over power. But I think the one thing that's real interesting that you said that I wanted to piggyback off of a little bit was about this idea. Oh goodness, don't lose it. It was an idea that you had about, my goodness, maybe I did lose it. I apologize.
Was it the house thing?
Oh, about about
CPT,
trauma, right? And I think that it's so interesting because we're so ashamed about our traumas. We're all so ashamed. And I think it's so important to understand that it's just another bag. Like it's okay. It's okay. We all have a bag. We have a bag that we carry with all of our junk in it when we go to our relationships, when we go meet our friends. We have all of our crap. The friend that hurt your feelings in kindergarten, the girl who embarrassed you on the bus. Like it's all there, right? But we learn how to carry it, and we learn how to protect ourselves and be better. And that's where a lot of this is going. And I think when I talk about diagnosing people, I really talk about the fact that you can have traits of things and not to be clinically significant. And so when I start talking about symptoms and people get really irritated about diagnosing, and what I will say to them is, here's the deal. Not every cough is a cold. Right? So just because you cough doesn't mean you have a cold. You could also have a sneeze. Does not mean that you have a cold. Right? And so it's important that, we do that a lot with narcissism, right? Everybody's a narcissist.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Because
that's a hot word now.
It's a hot word, right? And so you could have narcissistic tendencies. That's fair. I know a lot of people who do. But that does not mean that it's clinically significant.
Right.
And if it is clinically significant, that's no different than having diabetes and needing insulin. It's not the end of the world, right? It is okay. Sometimes you need a little bit of extra support, and that insulin may be a pill, or it may be a therapist, or it may be a community center, or it may be a good group of friends, right? But understanding that it's okay to be not okay, and technically in terms of a diagnosis.
Right.
Diagnosis doesn't mean anything. Do you really care if you have a cold or you have the flu or you have pneumonia when you go to the hospital? No, just treat it. I just want to be okay.
Yeah.
And so what we call it is what we call it, and we call it that for insurance purposes only. Because insurance has to call it something, right? And that's why it's there. That's it, right? And so do not allow insurance companies to dictate how you feel about yourself.
Wow.
Right? Because they have these characteristics that they want to do in order for us to bill your insurance. This is all capital, right?
Wow.
So let's just keep in mind what that does, and let's keep that separate from what's going on here.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing. I don't mean to cut you off, but thank you for sharing that with us, Alex, because as I mentioned before early on, this is one of the reasons why I created this whole series anyway, because of a listener who had wrote in that had been diagnosed with PTSD. And when he was sharing it with other people on his diagnosis, is that they were treating him on the diagnosis, whether of him as the person. So were you saying that and saying that, you know, don't look and hold on to that. What I'm hearing is don't hold on to that like it's gold. Like that is who you are, and that's the description of you, because we just got to put a name with it for insurance purposes. This is don't define who you are. So you just saying it right now, that just like, thank you. Thank you, girl.
Exactly. I think it's so good. I talk to so many people who are scared, especially because of another capacity in which I dabble. I see a lot of psychologists and things in a clinical space. And so we work closely. And sometimes I see people who need that kind of support. And so trying to help people, especially Black and brown people, with medication thoughts, it's tough. And so I have to have that conversation. Like you will be the first person to run to the cabinet if you got cramps. Right? You'll go take a Motrin. If you got a headache, you'll grab the Tylenol or Excedrin. Your joints hurt, you running for that naproxen, right? Or trying to get that anti-inflammatory. So why, if you are depressed, are you not willing to try something that could be helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hit me with symptoms or side effects, because I mean, what, turn on a Cymbalta commercial? Like what?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the symptoms, side effects are gonna be what they're gonna be. But like let's keep an open mind, right? Because you will not withhold the Tylenol. So like let's just think about this.
Right.
And so that's something that I really try to preach, and especially alongside the idea of therapy, period. Right. Just understanding that it's okay. It's okay to talk to somebody who might know just a little bit more about it than you.
Yeah.
But it's also okay to not like your therapist. Okay. Like I know so many people who have one bad experience with a therapist, never want to go back. And I apologize for that, jumping on this little thing, but that is, therapists are like shoes. Try on a couple of pairs before you decide to go barefoot for the rest of your life, because you're bound to step on a rock.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. All right. So look, I got a question for our listeners. Have you ever felt stuck in love, not because you didn't care, but because the mental weight was too heavy? So I want you to drop in the chats, or even we're gonna open up the lines. I know we're gonna open up the lines, or you can give us a call at 765-275-1527. That's 765-271-1527. And I just saw we just had a nice little super chat over here. So I want to shout out Tampa. Hey, Tampa, I see you all, and I thank you so much for giving us that little, that little tip right there. And that would definitely go to the Mental Awareness America. We got some little friends over here. All right, Dr. Will. So I'm going to bring you into this conversation real fast. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right. So my question is for you, is as someone who lives in the world of emotional healing every day, what are some of the key signs that relationships is being affected by untreated mental health struggles?
That's such a hard question, because there are so many things I could say. I'll say it like this. Three layers to this. The first layer is there's a pattern that no one's talking about. Right? So two people are coming in with a pattern that no one's talking about. And so these patterns just keep happening. And no one's saying what the actual issue is. The second one is, how good are you in conflict? You have to be good in conflict. And some people are really good at being bad in conflict. So my thing is who's putting out the fire? Who's putting out the fire? And why is it them? And then third, what's the representation versus the authenticity? So a lot of times I'll see couples that I know are having problems at parties. I'll see how they interact with other people in public spaces. So I'll notice, well, how close are they together? I'll look at, how far are they separated? How are they interacting when, one group's on this side, the other group's on this side? I'll look at the dynamic of how they represent each other in public. So for me, it's really about the pattern, how you deal in conflict, and then also what's the dynamic when they're in public, right? How do they see each other in public? And that's always interesting to see the language and how the language changes on other people.
Right.
Not that I'm studying people in parties. I'm just watching.
You're definitely studying people at parties. Definitely a case study at parties.
Did you want to add on to that, Alex?
I would say that I don't want to.
Go ahead, girl.
I would say that the patterns, I think it's important to acknowledge the conflict is going to be there, right? Like the conflict is necessary. It has to happen. If one of my biggest red flags, and people say this to me all the time, and I kind of chuckle to myself, or sometimes not to myself, but and they say, oh, we never argue, or I'm like, somebody's lying. Like, you may not be arguing, but somebody's miserable. Somebody's giving and giving and giving and caving or allowing you just to have your way every time. And it doesn't mean that they're going to make that loud, but it may happen, right? And so understanding that conflict has to happen. I would say when it comes to deciphering the existence of a personality disorder or a mental health concern, it depends on what it looks like. But one thing that I will say is it's usually very rigid. And so what you will notice is the unwillingness to compromise or be flexible in certain aspects of your relationship dynamic. That is one commonality that I see across the board. And so whether it is depression or extreme anxiety or extreme whatever, right? It's usually rigid. It's not flexible. It won't allow you to be compromising for, you get too worked up to be that kind of forgiving, or you get to, right? Like it's the rigidness of my behaviors, or you can even know that I may act irrationally, but I can't help it. The unwillingness to also look inward and reflect. That one is can sometimes be an indicator. But that rigidity is something that I find quite often, I would say, I would say at least 80% of the situation.
I agree 100%. And then you look at the kids too, though. But then you look at the kids, you see how the kids act. You can tell immediately what's really going on when you look at the kids. Like, oh,
that's true. Or vice versa. You see the parents, and you're like, oh wow. So, but I think that's important to recognize. That second level of like parent of origin. Right. How much of this is family of origin and how much of this is like learned behavior or caught along the way. And that sometimes will help you to, if they act like somebody in their family, and how disruptive is that? I also like what Dr. Will mentioned about how they treat each other in public. That always tells you kind of where the relationship status is at. Right. Because that will tell the tale and the subtleties, right? Like in a simple, how many times have you seen like Ivanka Trump didn't want to hold his hand right? We all saw it. They said it happened. She smacked his hand away, right? Like it's those moments, but those are telling moments, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit doing the most, but like those are the telling moments, the way that you talk about your significant other when they're not around.
Yeah.
Right. It speaks to how much you really respect them and how much you really value them.
Right.
And so I think understanding the difference there is very difficult. It really is, like Dr. Will said, but that rigidity, I think, will usually be there and it will definitely show up in conflict.
Beautiful. Thank you both for that. So we actually got a caller on right now. Want to bring him up? All right. Hey, Rock Hard, how are you?
Peace. What's happening? How y'all doing?
Good to see you.
Doing good.
What's going on? Love the conversations that y'all having.
Yes, yes. You got a question?
Not necessarily a question. Yeah, I can say it's a question. I kind of need your advice on like kind of a situation that I'm going through. And y'all hit like so many like things that I'm going through right now. It's not even funny. Like I love y'all conversation right now. And like right now, like I'm kind of dealing with a breakup, and I'm like in a situation where I'm noticing a lot of patterns in my relationships. And I guess my question would be, what's the definition of throwing something in somebody's face? Like throwing something in your spouse's or your girlfriend, boyfriend face. What would you say the definition is that?
You want to go first, Alex? You go ahead.
Sure. I would say, I mean, basic would be, you continuing to bring it up after it seemingly squashed, or bringing it up in situations in which, it's beneficial to you and maybe demeaning to me. But also I would say that when that type of situation is occurring, it's important to decipher the difference, right, between something being thrown in your face or an unresolved issue. And so occasionally, I notice that people argue in circles a lot, right? You'll have different arguments. If we talk about your ex-person, I'm sure you'll say that we have arguments about the same things over and over and they never get resolved. And that happens a lot because of that feeling that, excuse me, feeling that they are not getting validated. And if you're not with this person, I'm sure you've had a moment where you've not felt validated and you've been upset or something about something, and they said that your anger wasn't valid, that you can't be that upset, right? Or you shouldn't be upset. And so those moments, it's important to understand that I might be bringing something up that feels like I'm throwing it in your face. But am I throwing it in your face? Like for me, throwing it in your face is that I'm making a display, right? If I'm just bringing it back up to you, it may be because it's unresolved to me and I still am not feeling validated about what we talked about or understood. There is a difference between validating somebody's experience and agreeing. They're not the same, and we often misconstrue the two, right? So I don't have to agree with, I don't know, a woman finds her husband cheating, she walks up to him and slaps him. Okay, can we understand why that happened? Can we relate to the emotional feelings that this person was likely feeling in that moment that allowed them to walk up and smack that person? Yes, we can all understand how that probably felt. Do we agree that that was the best way to go about it?
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Right. And so that's the difference. I can validate that, man, that sucked. And I can totally understand where you're coming from. And also still hold true to the fact that I don't know that that was a good idea. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done it.
Right. Dr. Will?
For me, it's a matter of they're saying that because they need some type of security or reassurance from you. And I also want to acknowledge the fact that you acknowledging that you're breaking up or it is a breakup, right? There's a difference between being broken up and in the process of a breakup. So I'm curious, which one is it? Because my language is going to change based upon that.
It's really complicated. Like, cause I know I'm limited time, and it's just to kind of go in detail what I'm going through, which kind of tell some good news I'm about to have my first child. So
Great.
Congratulations, Rock.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
gang.
the second part is like during the pregnancy, it's like a real space. Like she pretty much says it like we're broke. It's like I'm broken up, so I can do whatever I want. It's like I could
Mhm.
basically hang out whatever, whoever, like these toxic people,
Mhm.
like people from the past. I could do whatever, and it's like kind of going to detail what I was trying to ask. What I go through, it's like lady, they'll seem like unappreciative. Like example, like they'll say like nobody never do anything for me. I'm by myself. I'm on my own. And there's
Mhm.
times where I'll feel unappreciated. It's like, hold on, like I did like, and I did that because I love you. Like you're not by yourself. And it's like you're throwing that in my face. Why are you throwing it in my face? If you did it out the kindness of your heart, you would never said nothing. I know this is actually a pattern with me to the point where I sit and wonder, like, do I like throw stuff in people's face, or because in my head I'm doing it just to show you, like, this is
Mhm.
the love I have for you. Like these are examples. It's like you're not by yourself. I did this
Right.
out of love. I'm doing this because I'm trying to support, but it backfires as I'm throwing it in the person's face.
Yeah.
And that's where
And
I get an insecurity. It's like, is it me? Like, am I
is it me?
tripping? Like,
Exactly. And that's why I had to ask you which one is it, because that's what it sounded like you were in a conflict of position. So, first principle, the action is never the reason, right? So I see that you're trying to place yourself in a place of, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to state my place. I'm trying to let you the value that my place with you is genuine.
Mhm.
I'm genuine. And their irrational behavior of, well, you can go on, go do your own thing, you know, that's an unmet need. So there's something that they need, possibly. There's something that they need from you to feel seen. And they did not possibly open up about what it is because they're afraid that something might be expected of them once they get too vulnerable. And so, my best recommendation for that is really to understand, I would change the language and say, I want to be the best dad possible. And I can't do that without making sure the mom feels loved. What do you need to feel loved right now? What does that look like
I'm
to
sorry
feel
about
loved
that.
right now? You good. The biggest thing is changing your language to saying, I want to be the best dad. And to do that, I know I have to take care of you first. So I'm wondering, what is that you need to feel loved by me? Because what I'm doing is not what you need. So I want to make sure I'm doing it accurately. Putting yourself in that position of, I'm willing to be what you need rather than I'm trying to prove myself. Because once again, a man that tries to prove himself has already lost. So put yourself in the position of, I am here, but I know that I need to be here for you. What does that look like? And see if you can actually align with that, because she might be asking for something that's not even realistic. And then that's going to let you know a whole nother world.
And
But I think it goes to your philosophy too, Alex. I was going to say.
What she is asking for is validation. So she's upset. So if you said, man, I work hard every day. I go to work, I come home, and I feel like, this house is sometimes just dirty, right? In those situations, what you're trying to say is, we should clean the house. What you're asking for. That's kind of that unmet need on the surface that Dr. Will was talking about, the unmet need. But the way that you're going about it is kind of in a space that's placing blame and pulling defenses out of your partner. In this situation that you just described, you are the person who is being a little bit defensive. Now, let me be very clear. Defensive is not a bad thing. Because usually when you get defensive, it is because you're used to a person who can be a little bit rough in the startup, right? So when they likely bring something to you, it's probably pretty amped. Probably it could be that your family was that way in your past, right? But likely people have gotten a little bit amped. And so you're used to kind of having to defend yourself. Okay? No shame in that. What she is looking for from you is exactly what Dr. Will was talking about, that next layer of being able to decipher this relationship ease of that underlying need, right? So what she's saying is, I need help. I need help, and I'm not good at asking for it. If we talk about this female, I would bet that she's not the person who asks for help very much. And so what she's saying to you is that I need help, but I'm not able to communicate effectively enough to just ask you to help me with the dishes, or can you come pick up the kids or take them or whatever, right? And that's where what Dr. Will's talking about is you're trying to ask her, what is it that you're needing? And so my way of saying that is, what are you asking me to do differently?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm
Right?
write that one down.
Because what a lot of times, and we're all guilty of this, we will spend so much time trying to help the person understand how upset we are. Right? This happened and I was so upset, and then this happened and oh man, I was real, right? Like we kind of build into that. But the point, is I want you to understand what I want you to do differently though, because I don't want to encounter this again. And like, I'm tired of you telling me like that you don't get no help, right? I'm tired of that. So what is it that you're asking me to do differently? Right. And so, yes, and that is, and be prepared for, I don't know.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing. And so I want to come in on top of all of this, because I want to, first of all, I want to repeat what I heard you say, Rock, that there is a throwing of things in people's faces. That was one thing that you said. When I heard you say that, the first thing that came to mind for me is that just a part of the validation that Dr. Will said, and that Alex said as well, but also is that there is something that has not been communicated to that person that they need to hear from you or whoever that person is being thrown in the face. But also that other person has to take accountability if you're still doing things to trigger that same thing. You understand what I'm saying? So when we talk about throwing things in people's face, we have to step back and say, well, what am I doing that's continued to trigger this? Have I, whatever choice and decision that we made in agreement on our relationship, am I still doing that actively? That's one. Two, let's talk about her being pregnant. Let's be real. They go through emotional things all the different times in every aspect of. So honestly, you don't know where that person is mentally, emotionally, physically in that state of mind. And then let's go to what I always talk about is healing, self-love. You know, coming into a relationship, she could already came in with baggage of toxicity. You have your toxicity as well. And you're trying to create something that's so amazing and beautiful when you individually haven't even tapped in on healing of yourself. So now you in there trying to build something in a hole and like, okay, that's we gonna do. I also heard you say, well, she good with me being around toxic people. She's good with me doing this. No, she's not good. No, she's not good at all. That's a complete lie. I like what Dr. Will was like. Ask her how do you want me to be, or something like that. You said.
I remember that you said instead of ask how could I do it differently?
Yes.
That I heard that one. Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna say this. She don't know. She do not know. She don't know. She don't know. So it's like, what would that communication be now? How would that communication be? Me knowing that she don't know. And being a woman, especially, I don't even know what ethnicity she is, but just being a strong woman, even what she was saying with you is that you throwing it in my face that you're trying to do things for me. She seems to be like a strong woman, and she feel in the most vulnerable moment right now. Not giving an excuse. This is just a fact.
Yeah.
This is just a fact of what it is. And so now you need to look at that. Okay, now what can I do? Because I can't control her emotions, but how can I control me in the way that I react, in the way that I put things out, and what do I do?
Yeah, because that That whole moment of, oh, you can go date anybody else. You can go anybody else. The action is never the reason. It's not for you to find other people. It's to see if you're going to stay.
Yes.
Are you going to choose me? I want to feel chosen. I want to know you're going to devote yourself to me. I want to know you're serious about this family that we're about to create.
How
I'm creating
pregnant?
life. Are you creating the family? That's
How
what
far
he's
along?
asking you to step into that.
Yep, I would agree. How far along is she?
Yeah.
He's due September.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pregnant.
Yeah, she wants you to
This
step
your first
into it.
one?
Yeah, this is my first one. Yes.
This your
Is it
first
hers
one?
first one too?
No, this is her second. This is my first.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah. So then,
She wants to recreate the experience. She wants a corrective experience. Usually, when women are having the second child, it's a corrective experience.
Yeah.
First time it was like I had to go through this and learn. Second one's like, okay, I want to fix things. I want to do this better. I want to have. So I'm wondering, like, that'd be a great exercise on date night. You know, they have a movie night. Just kind of have a moment where you're like, well, how from the first one to this one, what would you have done differently? What would you have done better? How do you want this process to be?
Yeah.
That would be really amazing to see that.
Right. Sorry, Dr. Will.
No,
I think it's important also to understand, like, with what Naomi said around being pregnant, right? Like, sometimes you're just not being rational. Like, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Sometimes it's just not happening. And sometimes I just don't like you because I'm here doing this. And also, I love you though. Don't want you to leave. But like, I feel disgusting.
Yeah.
So that's also part of it. It's like, go, because I'm look like this, right? And so, like Dr. Will was saying, it's a search for reassurance too, right? She needs to still be told that she's pretty. She needs to still be told that she's valued and that you're willing to help. And you know, it can be frustrating to have to do that, and scary, right, for you.
Yeah.
But also understand, like, this isn't likely something that has just come out of nowhere. Like, this is people get a little bit more extreme when they're pregnant, but not far, right? And so it's not uncommon that she's a probably fiery type of person. And there's a part of you that is realistically attracted to that. And that's a double edge. And so sometimes you have to deal with the other edge too, right? And so I think, but if you go into that space trying to be more validating, I'm like, okay, like, I understand that you're pregnant and this kind of sucks. I mean, it's the best thing in the world, but also the process it's tough on the body. Right. And so, and if she has the history, depending on how her relationship went with the previous baby daddy, because if he's a piece of crap, which I don't know, then she is probably extremely anxious about the fact that you will leave. Yes, he did. And not only did he leave, he left me with a money pit.
Yeah.
I mean, children are beautiful. I love my son to death, but they're expensive. They're expensive. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's hard, right? And so the thought of being a single mom of two,
yeah,
it's a little anxiety provoking for anyone. And so I think just kind of trying to give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes we need to be able to give each other grace and not jump for all of the pump fakes, as I like to say. In the relationship, you have those moments, right, where somebody says something out of pocket. You'll never be a great dad or something. You're like, where did that come from? Who says that? But I think it's important to understand, like, if it's something that's hurtful, you can bring it up later. You can talk about it later. In that moment, you need to address, like, what's going on inside of you right now, that this is the space where we're at, like, that you're like, what's happening, right? Something's going on in you that you might need my support, and I don't think I'm showing up for you in the right way.
Right.
So help me help you. Right? Help me help you.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Alex. Rock, first of all, thank you for coming in. And just, do you have any last words right fast before, because we got somebody else coming in waiting in?
Not literally, like, thank all of you. Like, part of me, like, trying to build myself and working, y'all also gave me enough with Jewel that I really been working on. Even my cousin told me, which is delivery. Like, I've really been trying to work on my delivery when it comes to speaking. So y'all hit two. I appreciate y'all.
That's awesome. Good luck. Congratulations.
No problem. Thanks for the love always, Rock.
Good luck on your little one.
Congratulations again.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, baby. All right, my beautiful people. We open it. We got some more people on. Y'all ready for another one? All right, let's go. Hello, Theory.
Oh, he's muted.
You muted. Can you unmute yourself? We see you. Hi.
Yo, what's up? I'm from Chaotic Truth's panel. Yeah. Do you know Chaotic Truth? I'm like a follower of his. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So where's Chaotic Truth? I've been waiting for him. Yeah, where's Chaotic Truth at? Yeah. Shout out Chaotic Truth.
Okay.
Yeah, salute. Yeah.
Salute, baby.
I'll be in the background for a while.
You been in the background? Okay. Did you just cut him off like that?
Got a little shameless plug.
All right, Chaotic. I see you in there.
That's great.
All right. So while we got this pause right now, I just want to remind you all that what we're talking about right now is just not a conversation that we have, but we got to take this conversation and make action of it. You know, as I said before, we are very proud to be raising funds for the Mental Health America this month. And every donation, every donation, every tea that you purchase of our Mind and Heart collection, the hoodie, the cups, everything, you can go to AskNyomi.com as well as allNyomiCreatorsSpring.com. And also you can go to donate@giveclassy.org. Love and mental health, but you can also go to AskNyomi.com. And again, 100% of all proceeds go to that. If you was tuned in from the beginning of, I read a story about this family that the wife was actually trying to raise money for a treatment. So these funds will go to something like that. You understand what I'm saying? It's like we can't just be talking about it. We got to really do action and do something about it. This is the start of something, but we really got to push forward. So I'm asking you, my listeners right here, whether it's $2, $5, $10, $20, $30, whatever that you have in your pocket right now, go over to AskNyomi.com. Hit that donate button on this big old green, hit it right there. It's going to be a couple of signs, boom, 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 boom. I think it say 25 and then it say special. If you ain't got 25, hit the special. Give us 5, give us 10, give us whatever that you have, because it is definitely going through a good cause. And when we talk about mental health, I want to make sure that we're not just talking about PTSD, or we're not talking about bipolar, or we're not talking about this. We're talking about things like depression. We're talking about things like anxiety. Even, can I be honest? We're even talking about pregnancy brain. Can we be honest?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you understand what I'm saying? And so with all of those things, we're talking about a whole conglomerate of things in this world. And when I say this and people be looking at me, really now, we're going to say this, probably 99% of us is going through something mental. Really. Mm-hmm. Really. But the biggest thing is being aware of who you are and wanting to get the treatment, wanting to find the tools, wanting to get the help, not only for yourself and learn that, but so you can be a ripple effect to others. Just like Rock just shared a story about him and his girlfriend. That's a ripple effects of some toxic stuff. Not talking about anybody, but that's what it is. And I think we've all been through that. But this is why platforms like this is why platforms like the Season of Stuff, this is like platforms like what Dr. Will and Alex have, where we are bringing this forward to like, okay, this is what we've learned. This is what we've been through. And this is what we want to share with you all. But it's up to you to implement it, to take it and use it and put it into your toolbox. Put it into your toolbox. Yeah. Yeah. You got any words, Dr. Mike?
I'm just listening today. I'm just listening. Good info. Good information today.
Okay. All right. Well, we got to wrap up the show. This has been amazing. It's been so amazing. First of all, I want to thank you, Alex, for coming in, swinging in at the last minute. You know what I'm saying? You just alley-oop it right on in there.
No worries. When it comes to I got you.
And you did the thing. So if you can tell my listeners, where can they find you at?
Oh, yes. Plug. No, so I actually am partnering with Dr. Will at the Washington Wellness Institute. So I am there. I will be taking new patients probably in June.
Thank God.
Yep. And so right now I'm pretty much working on solely relational work for the moment. But I will have some other things down the pipeline, and I'll be sure to come back and let you know.
All right, thank you. And
Oh,
Dr.
oh,
Will,
also, Alex is also over not just in Ohio, but also in Cali, working in both spaces. So
you on my side
yeah,
of the world. Okay.
yeah. So if you're in Cali as well, or in the West Coast, she's also over there too.
Yes.
All right, beautiful. And Dr. Will, as always, thank you for being, a part of our little co-pilot over here, all the
Good to
time.
see you, Will.
Thank you. Yes. You got any last words?
Be kind to yourself, and he'll always.
That's what
I know that's right. Again, my beautiful people, BTG crew, I thank you all so much for just showing up. But let's not just show up in this aspect as viewers, but go over there to the website, asknyomi.com, and I'm going to spell it for you. That's ASKNYOMI.com. Hit that donate button. Whatever that you have, donate. And Chaotic Theory, tell your fans to go on over there and donate too, baby. Tell them to go over there and donate too. And as always, family, Dog Pound My Mic, thank you, baby, for always just being here right here with this. But next week, we have another amazing guest coming on. Dr. Bisbee is coming on for our last month. This has been a great series. It's been a great series. It really has. And we'll be closing it out on a very bold topic: mental health, intimacy, and vulnerability. Trust me, we're going to go deep.
Sounds like tea.
Right. I'm going to ask you some questions before next week.
Don't ask me.
All right, my beautiful people. Until then, keep loving yourself, keep healing, and take care of your mind and heart. Have an amazing weekend. Have a good one.
Hey, it's the goddess Naomi Banks, and I hope you enjoyed that last episode of Ask Naomi Bridging the Gap. And if you did, please like, subscribe, press that notification button, as well as comment. I'll see you next week. Keep it sexy.
Ask Naomi Bridging the Gap. This is where we talk about love, sex, relationships, cultural differences, and so much. Did she leave?
Yes, yeah. Wait.
Still alive.